Hi guys, my name is Amal and I am an international spoken word poet alongside being a fourth-year University of Denver student. My major was made by me. It's called Community Programming and Social Psychology. I'm from Syria. We've lost 30 members of our family so far due to the Assad regime and the wars that's happening over there. So I'm very honored to be able to shed some light on what the experience is and the reality is over there. Because obviously media manipulation has strongly impacted the way we're actually able to approach these. So I hope you guys have open minds because we're opening up our hearts for you. In 1982, when Aleppo had started a revolution, an uprising, they got together for a protest. Within days, the government had come and they had massacred between 20 to 40,000 people, and 20,000 people were missing. And they haven't been heard of since. And that was done by the Assad regime to halt any sort of uprising. And these people, they were demanding very basic things, such as freedom of speech. I mean, education, universities were being heavily, heavily censored. And this is a country with 97% literacy. It's an educated country, it's a modern country, it has a productive economy, they have relations, an international language center of the world. So the dissatisfaction ultimately came from this overbearing censorship. It's crazy because when the revolution actually started, the modern day revolution, March 15th, 2011, what actually sparked it in the media, where people started knowing about it, was when a group of about 6 schoolboys had graffitied on the wall, Jaye Dorak Ya Doktor, which means your turn is coming, doctor. And it was inspired kind of by this Arab Spring uprising, which is predominantly led by college students like us. So the government came and they kidnapped those boys, they ripped their fingers off, they cut off their genitals, they were tortured and returned in body bags. But through this process of torture, the people started protesting for their release, not for the overthrowing of the government, for the release of these boys. And these individuals, these protesters, were met with bullets, which prompted more protesters to come out, which prompted more bullets. And the thing is, Iran, Russia, and Syria, they have a little triangle of friendship. In Mezze, where I used to live, they were going to crush down all of the buildings that civilians were living in Damascus because they were going to build towers for the Iranis. Because the Iranis were supplying them with troops. I mean, within the first week of the revolution, 15,000 troops were employed from Iran. But as soon as Russia came in and started their airstrikes, they halted all of those construction operations because Iran's help wasn't necessary in that regard. Russia has been the one consistently selling weapons to the Assad regime, which is an international war crime. Their men have been on the ground killing alongside Assad regime. And so the fact that now we are somewhat collaborating with these groups against ISIS, it's fascinating because it didn't come until recently. And 85% of US airstrikes are not hitting ISIS territories. Over 90% of Russian airstrikes are not hitting ISIS territories. One of the first members of my family to have been killed was my 13-year-old cousin. They were sitting in their farm, and she was sniped in the back of her head onto her mother's lap. And then her mother was shot in the face, and they kidnapped the 2 children. This was done by the government forces because there was no one else who was a threat at the situation. My grandfather died because they had a siege over his city, which is an anti-government town, which prevented them from getting any medical access to him. And because of the bombings that were frequently happening, when he died, there was no one with him in the hospital. My cousin, Noor, Allah yarhamu, he died because they could not get insulin. He fell into a diabetic coma, he needed 1 shot. There's constant bombings that are taking place. I mean, the majority of refugees through all of these interviews have said that the main reason why they left the country was because of the barrel bombs,